Welcome back to Chop Busters. Tonight, we have a chilling tale that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Turn off the lights, settle in, and prepare for a frightful journey into the unknown. This is Chop Busters, and the horror story starts now. Story number 1. When Brad Culp was a student at Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, there was a rumor that the town was one of the most haunted places in America. When Culp started an on-campus magazine, he couldn't wait to write about several of the area's most famous phantoms. Not long after his story was published, though, he found himself thinking about one ghost in particular, the ghost of Oxford Milford Road. As the story goes, many decades ago, probably sometime in the 1940s, there was a young man courting a young woman in a rural part of town. Because the woman's parents didn't approve of the match, he visited her under the cover of darkness. After her parents went to bed, the young woman would sneak out of her farmhouse and flash the lights of her parents' car 3 times. Then her young suitor would ride his motorcycle down the road. One night, he took the turn right before her house a little too sharply, says Culp. The motorcycle went one way and he went the other. His injuries were so severe that he did not survive. Rumor has it, however, that his love-struck ghost still haunts this stretch of Milford Road. Curious, Culp, his girlfriend, now his wife, and a friend decided to head out there one night to see if they could verify the tale. His girlfriend was worried she'd be completely freaked out. She believes more in that stuff than I do, Culp says. But he was mostly concerned that his suspicions that none of this was actually true would be confirmed. On this particular night, as Culp passed the abandoned farm, an idea came to him, and he pitched it to his girlfriend. How could she not say yes? Though reluctant, she relented, and Culp turned a short way into the farmhouse driveway. He killed the engine and flashed his lights 3 times. No joke, there was a single headlight that appeared 3/4 of a mile down the road, Culp says. You saw it start to come, going pretty slow. It kept coming and coming. My wife was freaking out. It was coming closer and closer. As a collision seemed imminent, Culp turned on his car's lights. He expected to see a kid on a bike, bailing out from his prank now that he'd been caught. But there's nothing there. The light is just gone, he says. They got out of the car and walked around, trying to figure out what it was they had seen. To this day, we still talk about it. I saw something I cannot explain, he says. If you get him and his wife around a campfire, they'll swear up and down that the story is true. And if you're ever in Oxford, Ohio, consider parking for just a few minutes on Oxford Milford Road at night to test your own nerve. Story number 2. During the first 8 months of living in this house, which was built in the 1800s CE, I saw a black shadow figure of a girl that dragged my dog under the bed. My dog was held there for 10 minutes. My parents didn't believe me until they had their own experiences. One night, my sister stopped breathing while I was asleep next to her. I didn't wake up, and I don't have a history of sleepwalking. My dad said he was suddenly awoken by a girl who looked just like me. She sounded, acted, and even dressed like me, so my dad believed it was me. The girl said in a stern voice, like I do when trying to wake him up, "Dad, get up, Alexa is not breathing." My dad tried to fall back asleep, but she wouldn't let him. Once he sat up and put on his slippers, he walked to the stairs, and she was gone. He didn't hear her going down the stairs, which creaked like crazy. My parents got my sister breathing again, and my dad woke me up, accusing me of going back to sleep when my sister wasn't breathing. I told him he was crazy and had no idea what he was talking about. When he told me the story, I knew he had seen a ghost. When my mum heard the story, she laughed and called my dad crazy until she walked back up the stairs and heard a little girl aggressively say, "Boo." My mum came running downstairs to tell us what she heard, and my dad called her crazy. Another time, we were all having dinner when we heard footsteps upstairs. It sounded like men's work boots stomping around. My dad grabbed his gun and went upstairs with our old Rottweiler, Tank. They checked every room but found nothing. My dad had other experiences too. First, it was the little girl. Then, one night at 3 a.m., he he was thrown across the living room while asleep in his chair. He woke up on the floor, put the chair back in place, and went back to sleep. Another time, he heard a man's voice say, "Well, hello," through a vent that leads to the basement. My dad and Tank searched the basement but found no one. Now, at 15 years old, I've been having my own experiences at night. I've seen a malnourished man staring at my closet. When I asked who he was, he turned, smiled, and disappeared. I've also seen a little girl with long dark hair staring at my closet. When I asked who she was, she didn't turn around but disappeared. Another time, I saw a little girl at the foot of my bed who laughed, jumped, and tried to bite my arm before disappearing. Every time I see these figures, I jump out of bed and run, not knowing where to go. I need help and advice on what to do about these multiple experiences. Story number 3. My name is Brooke, and this story isn't mine, but my dad's. My dad, who we'll call John for privacy reasons, is a psychic medium and doesn't lie about things like this. This story involves my dad and 3 women we'll call Linda, Janet, and Marie John. My dad is the chairman of a theatre committee and has been for the past 4 years. We recently started a youth theatre school within the theatre, where Linda is the principal, Janet is the support coach, and Marie is the dance choreographer. We've known for a long time that our theatre is haunted, and every committee member, including me, has their own ghost story. This particular one is the most recent and by far the worst. John, Linda, Marie, and Janet were in the theatre's bar having a meeting about the youth theatre. Suddenly, Linda and Janet heard 2 solid bangs coming from the auditorium. They turned to John and Marie and asked, "Did you guys hear that?" John and Marie hadn't heard anything, so Linda and Janet explained what they heard. Then, they all heard continuous banging from the auditorium for about 2 minutes straight. My dad said, "I know that noise. It's the chairs being folded up forcefully." John decided to check it out and see if he could replicate the sound. As he opened the auditorium door, he was hit by a gust of freezing cold air and heard a whisper like. Then a man came charging at him. John said this man was clearly not human, but something trying to appear human. It was about 7 or 8 feet tall and walked weirdly, like it had more than one pair of legs. It was a black silhouette, and as it sprinted toward him, it screeched in a distorted, hellish voice, "Get them out." My dad slammed the door in pure fear. John, a psychic medium for about 15 years, said he's never been scared before, but this was different. He got a really bad feeling from it. His spirit guides, including ones he hadn't channeled before, like his animal guides, ancestors, and gatekeeper, all urged him to get out of the building immediately. He ran back to the bar and told Janet, Marie, and Linda, "We need to get out of here now. No questions, I'll explain outside." They left the theatre, locked it up, and got to their cars. As John got into his car, his gatekeeper came back to him, limping. John felt like the entity in the theatre was very dangerous. His gatekeeper warned him, saying, "This creature has been in your house. It has seen your children, and when you go back home, you'll find that your oven is switched on because of it." They all called each other in a group chat while driving home to debrief what happened. On a side note, my dad often does psychic nights at the theatre. On one occasion, he took a guest medium around for a tour. When they reached the costume attic, the guest medium said, "John, I can't leave this attic. The spirits of kids here are begging us not to go. They're terrified." This was a month ago, and John was confused about what the spirits were scared of. After his encounter with the entity, he now believes it was screeching, "Get them out," about the children's spirits. The creature must have been torturing the children in the attic. What do we do? Everyone is too scared to go back to the theatre, but we have no choice since we have youth theatre classes every Saturday, which are currently on a 2-week break. Does anybody know what this entity is? My dad is planning a ghost hunting night, but is hesitant to disturb whatever that thing is. Thanks for joining us on Chopbusters. We hope tonight's tale left you with chills. If you enjoyed the scare, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more spine-tingling stories. Until next time, stay safe and keep the lights on.